Ideas, and I'm here today with you with another video. In today's video, we will be learning a few new stitches. So get your yarn, get your crochet hook, get your scissors, and get ready to come on back and let's have some fun. How's everyone doing today? I'm doing pretty good myself. It's been a long weekend. I'm sorry about not being able to put out any videos this weekend, but I was finishing up some schoolwork for the last week of school, so I'm almost done, and I will be able to dedicate more time to doing videos once school is over. So the first stitch we're going to learn the half double crochet chain stitch. And in the first few videos, we learned how to do the single crochet chain stitch and the double crochet chain stitch. So today we're going to start off the lesson by learning how to do the half double crochet chain stitch. So let's get ready. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start off with our slip knot, and we're going to go ahead and get started with doing that. Okay, now that I have my slip knot on my hook, I'm gonna chain 10 today. So I'm gonna go ahead and chain, and I'm going slow. I hope you all are doing well and crochet is going good. Please leave me a comment down below if you have any problems, and I'll be more than happy to assist you. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pull a little yarn out of my skein. 9 and 10. Okay, so I've chained 10. And now what I want to do, I want to find that second chain from the hook. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and wrap my yarn from the back to the front, and I'm going to count. That's 1 and that's 2. And so I'm going to go up underneath that first stitch, that first V. I'm going to put my hook on top of my yarn, turn my hook, grab that yarn and pull through. And then instead of wrapping 2 times, I'm going to wrap once, and I'm going to pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Now I've just created a half double crochet chain stitch. So it's a little bit bigger basically than the single crochet chain stitch, but it's also a little bit smaller than the double crochet chain stitch. So this stitch is going to be right there in the middle. So I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook, and then I'm going to go to that very next space in the chain row, and I'm going to put my hook through the yarn, through the top stitch. I'm going to sit my hook on top of my yarn, turn, and pull through. I have 3 loops on my hook. I wrap, and I go through all 3. I just created my second half double crochet chain stitch. So I'm going to do this all the way down. So I wrap. I go through the next loop on the chain row. I put the hook through the yarn. My hook is on top of my yarn. I turn. I pull up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook. And remember, we're keeping them on this smooth part of the hook, not down in the groove. When we drop our stitches, they go in the groove after that. So I'm going to go through all 3 loops on my hook. And I'm going to continue this. So these are the stitches that I'm working in right here. I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook. I'm going through the top loop. My needle is resting on top of my yarn. I turn that needle. I pull it, and it grabs that yarn. And I'm going straight through that loop. I turn and go through all 3. I wrap the yarn, go through the loop, turn, pull up a loop, wrap my yarn, and go through all 3. And the difference between this and the half double crochet chain stitch, with the half double crochet chain stitch, we went underneath the first 2 loops on the hook. We wrapped our yarn and then went under the remaining 2 loops on the hook. So this one is going to create a tighter stitch than that double crochet chain, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and complete this row. I wrap my yarn, I go through the next chain loop stitch, wrap, pull through 3. I wrap my yarn, I go through the next loop, turn my hook, pull up a loop, wrap, and go under 3. Same thing all the way to the last stitch. I wrap my yarn, go through a loop, pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3. So I'm going to stop right there, and I want you to see what this looks like. As I said before, it's a little bit bigger than the chain stitch, the single chain stitch, but also it's a lot smaller than the double crochet chain stitch. This right here, this is a nice stitch where it's not so tight, but it's still, you know, crocheted closely together. It's not a lot of space in between. So in order to complete this, you would make a chain at the end of your row, 1 single chain, and then you're going to turn your work, and then you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook. Remember that this first stitch counts for the first one, so you're going to go to the second one right here, and you're going to put your yarn underneath those first 2 spaces of that V. So you can go from front to back, pull up a loop, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. You wrap your yarn and you pull through all 3. Wrap your yarn, you're going to this next space right here. You go under both of those stitches, you wrap your yarn, and then you pull it through all 3. And we're just going to complete that all the way throughout the row. So remember, you wrap, you're putting it right underneath these first 2 stitches. Your needle is laying on top of your yarn. You turn, pull up a loop, you wrap, and then you go through all 3. Make sure you have your yarn in your hand where it's comfortable for you. So I'm wrapping. I go through the loops. I pull up a loop. And I go through all 3. And I'm going through these top loops right here on top. And I'll take the hook out so you can see. But it's these loops right at the very top. And you can sort of start to see them. And that would be the next one. And then of course you would do your last one. And as I said in the beginning, in the first crochet video, it's very easy to start over with crochet. I can easily take this out loose, and then I can pick right back up where I left off and start over. So I wrap my yarn. I'm going through the next space. My hook is laying on top of my yarn. I turn, pull up a loop, I wrap my yarn, and then I go through all 3. I wrap my yarn, I go through the next space, pull up a loop, and go through all 3. And then in that very last stitch, I'm going to wrap my yarn. I'm going to go to this space right here at the end. I'm going to pull up a loop and go through all 3. Then I'm going to chain and turn. Okay, so this is what the half double crochet chain stitch looks like. I'm going to do one more row. So I'm going to be going to this next stitch right here. So I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook, and I'm going through this space right here. Wrap my yarn. I'm going through this next space right here. Wrap my yarn. I'm going through the next space right here. And these are the spaces I'm going right up underneath these loops right here. Wrap my yarn, and I'm going through the next spaces. Wrap my yarn. Wrap my yarn, going underneath the space, pull up a loop, and go through all three. So you do this all the way across, and this is how you create the half double crochet chain stitch. So now I'm about to show you how to do the triple double crochet chain stitch. So this one is going to be a little bit larger than the double crochet chain stitch. So get ready. Okay, so for the triple crochet chain stitch, I'm going to use a different color of yarn. I'm going to start off with my slip knot. And if you need help with learning how to do the slip knot, please refer back to the first crochet series of my videos for beginners. The first video I put out, I went into great details on how to do the slip knot and also how to do the chain stitches. So let's get started. So I'm starting off with my slip knot. Now I'm going to chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So now that I have my chain row of 15, the next thing I want to do, I want to count from my hook. I want to count 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 stitches from my hook. So the next thing I want to do, in order to do the triple or the treble crochet chain stitch, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook 2 times. So that's 1 and that's 2. So I've wrapped my yarn around my hook 2 times. And let me start back over. So you can also start like this. So you're holding your yarn down here. So you want to wrap it 1, 2 times. Okay. And you can hold that with your finger, and then you can count from the hook. You're going to count down 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to be working in that 5th chain stitch from the hook. So once you have your yarn wrapped around your hook 2 times and you've counted down 5 chains from the hook, you're going to place your hook inside of that top stitch. So I'm going to place it right inside of this top stitch right here. Be careful not to split your yarn. Okay, so now that my hook is inside of there, I'm going to lay my hook on top of my yarn, turn, and pull up a loop. I now have 4 loops on my hook. So the next thing you're going to do, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook yet again. And now you're about to go under 2 loops on the hook, only the first 2. So you're going to go under this one and this one. So I'm just going to guide my yarn, turn it to the bottom, right underneath those 2 loops on my hook. So now I have 3 loops on the hook. I wrap my yarn again. And then I'm going to go under the next 2 loops on the hook. Now I have 2. I wrap it one more time, and then I'm going underneath 3. Okay, so basically we're going to repeat this process all the way down the chain. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook twice. Then I'm going for this very next space on the chain at the top, and I'm going to put my hook through the yarn. My hook is now resting on top of my yarn. I turn, pull up a loop. I now have 4 loops on my hook. I wrap, go underneath 2. I wrap, go underneath 2 more. wrap, and then go underneath the last two. I've just created another treble or triple crochet chain stitch. Okay, so I'm going to the very next loop. So I wrap my yarn around my hook twice. Then I'm going to go underneath the next space on the chain, pull up a loop. I'm going underneath two. I wrap, go underneath two, wrap, go underneath two more. Okay, so I'm going to the very next chain. I wrap my yarn around my hook twice, pull up a loop, go underneath two, wrap, go underneath two more, wrap, go underneath the last three. So you're wrapping it a total of 3 times. This is not a hard stitch to learn. It's just an extra step added. You wrap your yarn around your hook 2 times. So you're wrapping it 2 times instead of 1 time. As in the double crochet chain stitch, we wrapped it 1 time. So we're wrapping it 2 times. You go underneath this space right next to the last triple crochet chain stitch you made. You go from front to back. Your hook is resting on top of your yarn. You turn your hook. It pulls that yarn through and you're pulling up a loop. Then you wrap your yarn. You go underneath the first 2 stitches on your hook. You wrap it again. You go underneath the second 2 and you wrap it again, and you're going underneath the last 2. And this creates a much larger stitch. And if you can see, it has spaces in between, but this is going to crochet up a whole lot quicker than the single crochet chain stitch, the half double crochet chain stitch, or the double crochet chain stitch. So now you've learned the single, half double, the double, and the triple crochet chain stitch. And this goes on and on. You can make these stitches larger and larger. The more times you wrap it, the more times you go underneath too. So as you crochet, you will learn new skills and new tips and new tricks to help you along the way. And I urge you to just experiment and have fun with this. So I'm going to complete this all the way to the end of my row. So I'm going to wrap it 2 times. I'm going underneath the very next space. Then I'm pulling up a loop. I go underneath 2, wrap, go underneath 2 more, wrap, go underneath 2 more. Wrap my yarn 2 times. Pull up a loop, wrap, wrap, and wrap. Okay, so there you go. This is how you create the triple crochet chain stitch. So now we're going to move on to another crochet stitch that I want to teach you today. After this crochet stitch, get ready, because tomorrow we're going to start our very first project. So that's going to be exciting. We're actually going to start making something together. So I look forward to that. And remember, I told you to make sure you get a second color of yarn. You will be using that on next week when we learn how to switch colors. So now I'm going to show you how to do the filet crochet chain stitch. And this is more so like a crochet stitch you may see like for a t-shirt or swim shirt. This stitch is very spacious and it has large holes in it, but it's really nice if you line it with something, like if you line it with fabric or something, or you wear it on top of something, or maybe make a purse out of it and put a liner inside or something of that nature. Okay, so let's get ready to start that filet crochet chain stitch. And this is a different brand of yarn. I actually found this yarn at my local Dollar Tree store. And sometimes you are able to find nice buys at your Dollar Tree. I actually purchased this yarn for $1. It's not very much on the skein, but it was very convenient and I like the color, so I bought it. So I'm looking for that loose end of my yarn. And like I said, sometimes it's not very easy to find. I cannot see it. I'm going to take a guess that it's on this side, but I'm not sure. I'm just trying to feel for it. So sometime you're going to have to pull out some of that inside of your yarn. That's what I have found, that works for me, just so long as the yarn is coming from the inside and not from around the outside where the yarn is jumping all over the place as you work. So I'm going to try to find that loose end of my yarn. So give me a second. Okay, so I found the loose end of my yarn, and the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and do my slip knot. So I have my slip knot, and the next thing I want to do, I'm going to chain up, well, I guess I'll chain up 15 just to start off, just to show you how to do this stitch. So I'm going to chain 15. Okay, so I chained 15, and instead of go ahead and starting the stitch, I want to show you how to do something and like give your work a border as you go. So instead of starting out in the stitch, I'm going to go back and I'm going to chain across this chain stitch, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this very next space. I'm going to go underneath the top loop, and I'm just going to simply do a single crochet chain stitch all the way across the top spaces. I just wanted to sort of give myself a base for my stitches. So I'm going in a single top of the row and doing a single crochet chain stitch all the way across. So this will be the foundation for our work. I'm just going to go across the top. Once you crochet across the top, then you're going to turn your work, and then we're going to start that filet crochet chain stitch. Remember, you can always pause the videos, go back, stop, and rewind as many times as you need to. That is the benefit of having a video. Okay, so I'm not going to put anything in the last stitch today. So this is the base for our filet crochet chain stitch, and all I did was simply go across with my single crochet chain stitches. So I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to turn. Once I turn, I'm going to chain 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to wrap my yarn around my hook. I'm going to look at my chain, and I see a space here and I see a space here. So I'm going to skip this space right here, and I'm going to do a double crochet chain stitch right inside of this space. So in each space, I'm going to be skipping one, and you will see a little bit better as we get started. So I'm going to skip the first one, and then I'm going to double crochet chain stitch right into the next one. So my yarn is wrapped around my hook, and I'm going to double crochet chain stitch right into this space. Remember, with the double crochet chain stitch, you wrap and you go underneath 2, wrap and go underneath the last 2. So I've just created one filet crochet stitch. And like I said, this is a stitch that you're going to want to do, like if you're designing a beach shirt or something, you want it to be like a fishnet look, like a purse, and you're going to line it with something. This is a really cool pattern if you want to do something like it, or a cool stitch for doing stuff that is open. So then you're going to chain 2. So I chain 2, I wrap my yarn around my hook. I'm going to skip the very next one. So I double crochet chain in this one, and now I'm going to skip one, and I'm going to double crochet chain stitch in the next space at the bottom. Remember, your yarn is wrapped around your hook. You lay your yarn on top of your yarn. You lay your needle on top of your yarn, and you pull up a loop. You have 3 on there. You wrap, you go underneath 2. You wrap, and you go underneath 2 more. And so you've now created your second filet crochet chain stitch. Chain 2, 1, 2. after you have chained 2, you go back to the bottom and you're going to look. So you have a double crochet chain stitch here, so you know you're skipping this one and you're about to put your next double crochet chain stitch in this space. So your yarn is wrapped around your hook. You go through the space, pull up a loop. You now have 3 on your hook. You go underneath 2, wrap, and go underneath 2 more. And you now created another filet crochet chain stitch. And if you'll see where I'm going with this, this will continue. This creates a type of fabric that is very airy and it has holes in it. It's a really neat design depending on what you're, using it for. So you're going to chain 2, wrap your yarn around your crochet hook. You're going to skip 1 space at the bottom and you're going to double crochet chain into the next space. You're going underneath 2 and then you're going underneath 2 more. Chain 2, wrap your yarn, skip a space, double crochet chain stitch in the next space. And this is the pattern that you will be creating as you go throughout. And I'm going to show you another row. I'm going to go ahead and complete this row. So I'm going to skip 1 and I'm going to double crochet chain stitch in this next space. All right, so I'm going to stop right there on this row. And normally you would make sure that you have enough chains in order to complete your last double crochet chain stitch. And I don't have enough on this end, so I'm going to stop right here. So as we said in the beginning, once you get to the end of your row, you're going to chain 4, just like we started in the beginning. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And remember, the 4 chains count for 2 going up and 2 going across for those corners. So once you turn it, you wrap your yarn around your hook. Then you're going to be double crocheting right into the top of this double crochet chain stitch at the bottom. So you wrap your yarn, you're going to be going right underneath the top. And I'm going to close up on that so you can see that. So you're going right underneath the top of that double crochet, and it's going to be 2 little spaces on your hook. It looks like the V of the top. Pull up a loop, and you're pulling it right through the top of that double crochet chain stitch. And now you have 3 loops on your hook again. Spread that out so you can see it. You're going to wrap your yarn, you go underneath 2, you wrap it, and you go underneath 2 more. And you just begun your second row of your filet crochet chain stitch. So now we're back to chaining 2. That's 1, 2, you wrap. You're going back underneath this top space of the next double crochet chain stitch. Pull up a loop, go underneath 2, wrap, and go underneath 2 more. You're going to chain 2. You wrap your yarn around your hook, and you're going to go underneath that very top space of the double crochet chain stitch, and you're going to pull up a loop. You're going to wrap, go underneath 2, wrap, and go underneath 2 more. And you will do this continuously throughout the pattern until you have, the length or width that you want. But this is how you do the filet crochet chain stitch. Okay, so we've been super busy today. So in today's lesson, I introduced you to 3 new crochet stitches. So in all, I believe you learned like a total of 5 crochet stitches since last week. I hope you're doing well and you're learning as you grow. In today's lesson, we learned how to do the half double crochet chain stitch. And this is a look at this one. We also learned how to do the triple or treble crochet chain stitch, and this is a lot larger than the double crochet chain stitch that we learned in our last video. And last, we learned how to do the filet crochet chain stitch, and we talked about the different uses for this type of pattern. So I hope you had fun today and you learned something new. I hope you're continuing to grow and become a better crocheter. Don't forget, in tomorrow's lesson, we will be starting our first project. We will be starting the granny square Afghan. So this can be a baby blanket, or you can actually make this project as large as you would like, I'm going to introduce you to it, and we're going to work on it together tomorrow, and we're going to work on it a couple of days next week together, learn how to change colors and so on, and you can complete it at your leisure and make it as large as you want. So I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope you will continue to watch my videos. Please share my content because this helps me grow. Take care, stay blessed, and I will see you again soon with another video. Bye-bye.